Armando Cuellar Jr., President of the Weslaco ISD Board of Trustees. This special board meeting is being conducted pursuant to Governor Greg Abbott's suspension of certain open meeting law requirements to the extent necessary to allow for telephonic and video conference meetings in response to COVID-19. Notice of this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours. The board is meeting by the use of Google Meets and telephone transmission, which allows two-way communication for members of the public during public comments. A recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date. The time now is 5:37, and I call this meeting to order. Item 2, I will now begin the roll call. Mr. Isidoro Nieto.
Present.
Mrs. Jackie Sustaita. Coach Ceci Trevino.
Present.
Dr. Jaime Rodriguez.
Present.
Mr. Mark de los Santos.
Present.
And Mr. Andrew Gonzalez.
Present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum in attendance. Item 3, public comments.
There are none.
We have no public comments. And now we go to item 4. Discussion and possible action for the board to A, consider for approval the updated proposal contract of the attorney firm ranked number 1, or B, terminate negotiations with attorney firm ranked number 1 and authorize administration to initiate contract negotiations with the attorney firm ranked number 2, RFQ number 21-01-21. Dr. Canales.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. At the January 14, 2021 special called board meeting, the proposed original contract submitted by the attorney firm ranked number 1 was not approved. A copy of an updated contract that includes a retainer agreement was submitted by the attorney firm ranked number 1. It is enclosed. As a board, you have an option to consider for approval the updated proposed contract with the attorney firm ranked number 1, or terminate the negotiations with attorney firm ranked number 1 and authorize administration to initiate contract negotiations with the attorney firm ranked number 2.
Consider approve the updated proposed contract with the attorney firm ranked number 1.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Gonzalez to approve the updated, let me see,
Proposed contract.
the proposed contract. Yeah, I lost my place here. Okay, the motion is to consider for approval the updated proposed contract with the attorney firm ranked number 1. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Dr. Rodriguez will second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to ask a question because we're new to the board. I'm not sure exactly how this works. If I want to make a motion for the other option, how does that work?
We need to
We have to disapprove or not?
follow
and then-
the
okay.
protocol of the first motion and then go from there.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
I just want to make a comment, and I wasn't here the other night. I was listening on the phone, so I didn't get a chance to comment. But I just want to, just make my case, as to why I'm deciding on what I'm deciding here, and this process that we have where we interview firms and get to know them a little better and see their qualifications, I think is a true transparent process. I think we've done this with architects and maybe insurance consultants in the past, I went back and reviewed, the meeting from the presentations just to kind of see, okay, maybe did I miss something? Was there something that maybe I wasn't seeing in in the number one rank or in the overall process in the rankings. And, I still feel like in regards to the best option for the district, we have a firm that's a top-notch firm who represents a lot of districts in the valley, who specializes in school law. They have over 60 attorneys, experts in special ed law, experts in contract law, just you name it. It's almost like an all-star team. And I went into this process, I've never had to hire an attorney personally or for the district, and I'm thankful for that. But, I went into this process, thinking, okay, who would I want representing me? And if I was in legal trouble, and who would I want to have who's going to best represent me? And I just feel like the process, the rankings, we were all here that night. Walsh was ranked number one. We all approved unanimously the rankings. And I just think if, for transparent purposes, I think it's a good procedure that we did, I have no ties to any of these firms. I've never dealt with any of these firms, and I can sit here and tell you that, I'm voting based on who I think is the best for the district. And I, commend the board for wanting to be proactive and with change, and change is good. I agree. But, just looking back at the presentations, I just felt like, it was pretty clear, and they all had great presentations. All three firms, they had great presentations. And just looking back at it, I just, it felt like we, the number one ranked firm, stood out that night. So just wanted to put my 2 cents in, and, and just to let everybody know where I'm coming from there.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez, and yeah, good points.
I'd like to add something also, because I know, thank you so much I agree with you. It was the ranking system. Not everybody ranked Walsh number one. The ranking system, obviously, it's by points. Not everybody ranked Walsh number one, but we already do employ Walsh with our other areas. So it's not like we're going to lose them or they're not going to help us out anymore. They already do help us out with our special ed or any other cases that we may have. But everybody sees everything differently, I guess. It's a different perspective. And I was seeing it more as accessibility. You have somebody that's close by to us. It's just different points of view. And I think that we're all entitled to our opinions. And that's the great thing about the board, that we're all a diverse group and we all get to share our opinions. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Taita.
Thank you. Like I said, this process also, this is the first time that we make this process, but this process started with us first making a change, taking the change in direction with the previous attorney that we had and that firm. There was areas that concerned me as a board member and as a representative of the community and the taxpayer. And that led to my decision when we voted there to provide the 30-day termination and to move forward with a new representation. And then now we get to this point where we have the point system. And yes, we did rank these firms, like I said, from first, second, and third. All of them came in and did an exceptional job. All of them came in and had their strengths. And in my opinion, looking at different categories, their weaknesses. And taking that into consideration, that's kind of what I'm looking at is I went back and reviewed and used different fields throughout the state of Texas. I went and looked and did some research as far as what are other districts paying, what are local districts that have the same size and capacity as we do are paying per hour, the fees that they're paying, retainers, et cetera, whatnot. What type of cost, what kind of cost history do they have as far as accumulation of fees? How long, I tried to get information as much as I could was accessible from different districts here in the region and throughout the state as far as the duration of time that they take in different cases. Like I said, Ms. Usaita hinted to that we have 3 firms that currently provide services to the district, 3 law firms. One law firm takes care of grievances with employees. The other law firm takes care of special ed education issues. And then the other firm is our legal counsel, which is the one we're currently talking about right now. So we have 3 firms already that provide services. And so taking that into consideration, this is for legal counsel and also that deals with other issues and contracts, reviewing contracts, construction contracts, and whatever the case may be. I took all that into consideration and also took in the cost. I did my own cost analysis and looking at the services that they're providing versus the cost and looking at other ranges. I even used the oil field sector, Houston, Texas, to see as a reference point, what are they paying per hour? Because this is a school board. And my opinion is that I look at every single dollar, because every single dollar that slips through our fingers is a dollar that's being taken away from a child. And so my job as a steward of the taxpayer dollar, a representative of the community and a voice for them, is to make sure that I critique every single contract and I look at what possibly would be the best outcome, and hopefully my decision is correct. And it's like Mrs. Taita said, we are a team of 7 with 7 different perspectives. So in times we're going to have to agree to disagree. But I think it's very important that we put out the facts that yes, we did rank them, but yet not everybody's fees were provided. So that's something that I took into account, and I asked, it was something that they could submit or something they could not submit. And in everybody's presentation and everybody's packet, not everybody had their fees listed. So there's still unknowns out there. So I looked at, without going into detail, because of the disclosure agreement with these firms when they came to present, and not giving too much detail, I said, well, why am I going to then move forward and still be at a certain level? I mean, we're looking for great services, but at what I feel is a reasonable cost based off the data that I received from looking at throughout the state, looking to colleagues throughout the community in different districts. And I said, okay, so this is I set a point. This is more or less where we should fall and look at that. Not in addition, we also still have other resources as well too. TASB provides resources as well. If I'm correct, there's a fee and a membership that we pay so that we can tap into. So there's no need to rush. In my case, like for me personally, I'm not trying to rush into anything. I'm looking at the contracts, I'm reading them thoroughly. And based off all those factors that I identified, that's gonna lead to the decision that I make. And I just wanted that to be known, to put that on the record.
Thank you, Mr. Los Santos.
Thank you.
Mr. Nieto?
As for myself, we,
Mr. Nieto?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Mr.
as for myself, selecting the selection process, I'm all for majority votes. And obviously, this firm did not receive the majority votes. The other firm did, number 2. And that's why the second time around, we stuck with that and we selected the firm number 2. And I did that for accessibility. And obviously, we want to be transparent to the voters. And that's why I'm speaking up at this time, not for anybody else, not to sit here but for the voters. Accessibility and trust with capital letters. To me, there's the other firms, looking at their websites, looking at their Facebook, researching these companies. There's just too many connections with previous board members and current board members. So for me, looking at that, trust is a big issue. And for law firm number 2 is my choice. Now, we sit here, we talk about doing a great job. We did a great job, good job, good job. Paying an attorney, and I have all the invoices here. Pay him $1.6 million over 5.5 years is not doing a good job. So we are going to pay close attention to everything when hiring a new attorney. And I just want to, this is public records. This is public records. I'm not going out and it's all right here. So it's time to select a new firm and one that WISD can afford, not one where we just write open checks to. So for what that's worth, that's my 2 cents in this.
And I understand what each board member said, but there was a process, like Dr. Jaime said. If we knew we were not going to follow the process, then why even have that special board meeting? If we already knew that we want somebody else, just put it on the agenda and vote, and I'm okay with that. Remember, it's like you said, the majority vote, right? The majority didn't select, you said, that firm, but the process did, but yet we're still doing this, which is okay. It is going to come to the 4 votes that are available. And it's like Dr. Rivera used to say, if you have the 4 votes, we go forward, and that's it. That's all we have to deal with.
No, sir, can I comment?
Well,
The thing is that,
Mr. Gonzalez hasn't had a chance to.
okay.
You okay?
The
Okay.
only response I want to make, sir, is that I don't want to make it seem as if no one had a chance. As I'm not speaking of myself.
Okay.
I wanted to look at fees. I wanted to look
Correct.
at every single component
Correct.
as far as what they're offering, what their services were. But for me also was fees, because regardless, as far as making, like I said, looking into the research, making phone calls and see whatever other districts are charging, some of them compatible size, some that don't have 2 other firms working on their payroll.
Right.
We have 3.
Right.
I was looking at all that as far as cost, because, as far as cost versus service.
Right.
And that was me.
And I understand that. But if that's the case, then we should have taken a month to review, have a special board meeting with more information, right? Instead of saying, we're going to use this process,
Right.
but yet we didn't use the process.
And
May I ask who came up with the process? Because we didn't.
It's a common process that
Okay.
we always have used.
It's always done.
Yeah, because in the beginning, from when we started the process and we had the presentation, we looked at the packet.
Right.
I already knew as soon as I saw the fees,
Uh-huh.
I knew that was going to be, now there was still an option,
Right.
but there's still fees missing. Not all 3 even submitted fees.
Okay.
So that was an issue.
And it's, for example, when we select architects or there's going to be a process the same way.
Right.
Especially when the board is going to rank them, then they have a workshop, then you go with the ranking and they say, okay, this was the best qualified architect, they present, and then we follow their process, correct?
Whenever you do a personal qualification for attorney, for example, you don't ask for fees. The company volunteers the amount.
Well, that's-
You cannot ask for it.
Well, that's something is that something that's in policy? Because how can you rank something without knowing what it costs?
Professional services, you don't use the price. They're
But-
selected based on demonstrated competence and qualifications according to the law.
Right. So that policy there creates this type of situation. Because for me, as soon as I saw the prices and the cost, like say for the first firm that was ranked number 1, even though they fell in the ranking to number 1, they weren't my number 1 choice because I saw the fees and I said, well, this is there's no reason to move on from the previous one if we're going to even pay more. That makes no sense. Okay.
Now, in relation to the conversations that we're having, the process that was used was one that has been used for years.
Yes.
And Mr. Sanchez has been here for a long time, so I will take that responsibility of agreeing to the process, because I believe that even though you have rankings, it does not bind anyone to the position that they're in. All it did was rank firms, and then the process would be used to determine who we would approve. And that's what we're doing here today. For whatever reason, if we don't agree with what that subsequent addendum is, then the process is going to allow for continuation with deciding on who we want to get, and then we're going to look at what they have to propose. But we have to follow the protocol for this ranking process. So if it means anything, that's what we're doing here today, and to clarify what it's all about. So it's a fair process, but it takes time.
Right.
It takes time and diligence, and I respect that everyone's opinion, but with change, you're going to have change, and I firmly believe that everyone has the right to choose who they want to work with. And once a decision is made, then we're going to move forward, because we have a monumental task to get through a school year working through situations that we've never been through before. So without saying any more, let's continue with
Coach, can I make another comment real quick, Coach? Now, I know I looked at the aspect of cost, and Walsh was the only firm that posted their fees, whether it was requested or not. So when we ranked and when we approved the rankings, unanimously, we already knew what they were going to charge. Now, looking at this option that they presented today with the flat fee, from what I see there, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Sanchez, but it's less than the previous retainer that we had with previous council. So we're getting a firm that has all these attorneys available for a lesser price. And plus, yes, we use them right now for special ed, because I've heard that a lot of our district, employees and staff, refer to Walsh for special ed questions. So we won't have to have that extra retainer for them. So that's another cost savings with this route. So, yeah, and again, I agree with Mr. Trevino, yes, this brought to light, the fact that we needed to, change, and so looking at this proposal, lesser fees, plus not having to have that extra retainer, that's why I'm supporting it. And my concern is, the next law firm, and this will be a question for them, but, are they going to be able to tackle everything? Special ed, contract law, are they going to tackle everything, or are they too going to have to hire, outsource some of the work and get some retainers?
Right.
So we're going to be back to where we're at right now with having multiple law firms, and so that's my point in this, in that, we go with Walsh, we have everything under one umbrella for a flat fee.
Right.
Just want to put that.
I just want to make a quick comment. In regards to the flat fee, yes, if you go back and review the previous attorney and firm that we had, they also had a flat monthly retainer fee, and they provided services under that. And they also had a substantial number of hours. So not only would they cover board meetings, et cetera, and other portions, but they also had a set amount of hours that exceeded just those meetings. And in this situation, you're limited to meetings, the regular standard board meeting, executive sessions, and some other components. And it's less than the others because we don't have the actual set number of hours that the previous firm had. So it's a little bit less as far as retainer, but if you compare and contrast the two between the previous firm that we had, the contract that was set up, and then this one, then you'll see that we're missing the hours, the substantial amount of hours, and then other factors. Because of the disclosure agreement, I can't go into full detail, but if you do a compare and contrast, technically, the way I see it, my perspective, and looking at everything, we're getting less from the previous firm that we had employed here with us.
Well, we have a motion. We can take a vote on that and then go forward.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Andrew Gonzalez and a second by Dr. Jaime Rodriguez to consider for approval the updated proposal contract from attorney firm rank number 1. Let's put it to a vote and designate your approval by saying aye. Mr. Nieto,
Aye.
Mrs. Sustaita,
No.
no. Coach Trevino,
No.
Dr. Jaime Rodriguez,
Aye.
Mr. Mark de los Santos,
No.
and Mr. Andrew Gonzalez.
Aye.
The chair votes no. Motion fails. That takes us to Part B, correct?
Correct.
To terminate negotiations with attorney firm rank number 1 and authorize administration to initiate contract negotiations with the attorney firm rank number 2, RFQ number 21-01-21. Do we have a motion for?
I make motion.
Mrs. Sustaita,
Terminate negotiations with attorney firm rank number 1 and authorize administration to initiate contract negotiations with attorney firm rank number 2.
I make a second
Coach
motion.
Trevino, second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, sir. So going to what Coach Nieto said earlier about this process and going back to December, when I mentioned this back in December, we don't want to go with 1. We don't want to go with 3. We're very reputable. Have tons of school law experience. I get it, we're talking about cost, but because firm number 2 and firm number 3 didn't put their price, we really don't know what that cost is gonna be for firm number 2. Aside from the work that he may have to go out. Firm number 2, as y'all tallied on y'all sheets, because I did the math, and all of y'all voted for them number 1. And I get it, they're local. I understand accessibility, but when you have more than 60, more than 10 attorneys, I think the accessibility part is there. However, my biggest concern with firm number 2 is number 1, Mrs. Staita pointed out, they have no insurance whatsoever. And I cannot believe a law firm that is going to represent our school district has no insurance unless they get the contract. That's a red flag. I'm sorry. Y'all are teachers and y'all are business owners. So y'all know how valuable insurance is. Number 2, their only work experience is with a charter school. That is it. Nothing in the public school system. At least any other local school districts. Number 3, they are not admitted to trial in the federal court. If you look them up. So obviously that just tells me they're gonna have to source it out. And so without having a price that we don't know yet, at least I don't know, and I'm sure none of y'all know, that's another red flag. I asked all 3 firms the same question. And obviously because everybody else had asked questions 1 and 2. And my third question was if they could handle our school district. And their answer was, we're competent. Nobody's saying that. We all know they have a law degree and they have a law degree for a reason. They're smart. I get it. But if they can't go to federal court, then who is? And that is my concern. Again, we can all agree to disagree. I get it. And I had to write it down today because sometimes my emotions, I wear them on my sleeve. That is my concern. And if that's not a concern, no history, no insurance, then I don't know. Because at the end of the day, it's about our staff and our community. And I get the dollars, Coach, 100%. We got to watch the dollar, Marcos. We got to watch the dollar. Agreed. But how do we know what that dollar is going to be if we don't know you? And that's all I want to say, Coach. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
I think, I believe once we get to that point, to the negotiation part, they'll put forth their money, whatever their dollar figure is, and then we make a decision at that point whether that is our choice or not. But I think, we only had 3 law firms to pick from, which is very disappointing for a district this size. So to me, again, 2 of them, there's just too many connections. And I'm sure as heck not going to put my trust in those types of law firms. I'm just not. I would rather have somebody with less experience, but somebody that we can trust at this level. Because you guys, or the previous board was already outsourcing, and who knows if it's just 3 law firms or there may be additional law firms. And that's something that I'm going to look into and see how much, what other type of expenses we incur legal fees wise. Because obviously it's not just, for 6 years, for 5.5 years, you guys had this one that we released here recently, and to tally up $1.6 million, that's, and then for nobody to ever question it or anybody or anything like that. Obviously I found out, and I'm glad I found out because I'm also a taxpayer just like everybody else. But to sit here and so the cost is going to be very important for us to factor in. And I think once we get to that point, and I understand, Mr. Gonzalez, you're concerned with this. I know the other law firms had tremendous amount of experience, but to me, there's just too many connections. Too many connections.
Coach,
for,
what kind of connections? I'm sorry.
with previous board members and current board members. That's, I mean,
But what connections are you
Well,
referring to?
I think we can all read between the lines what I'm trying to say there. There's just too many connections there. We need somebody that's gonna operate on even ground, and it's gonna be even with everyone. Again, equality.
Coach, with all due respect, it's a small town,
Yes.
and speaking of connections, since it was brought up, that law firm ranked number 2, who's to say they don't have connections? So I mean, we're pretty much, kind of, everybody's got connections, small town, everybody knows each other. Why not go with the most qualified people know school law? And that's just, I mean, it's, yes, you can say there's connections one way, but it's the same way with all 3 of the law firms, and that's just how it is in this small town,
May I speak, Mr. Cochuel? In the previous meeting that we had, there was a comment mentioned of why waste their time, why make them present if we're not going to go with them. And as a teacher, I felt that sting a little because there's been plenty of times where you ask somebody, come present yourself, interview with me, or my interview staff, my committee. Yet in the back of our heads, we already know who we're going to pick. And maybe the most qualified teacher who has all the certifications might not get picked compared to another teacher who's more qualified. So if you look at it in a whole, I'm all about I don't say the little guy, David and Goliath. We got to give a chance. We have to give a chance to you want to see the small firm, the little guy. Who's to say they can't? Who's to say that he can take care of it himself? We're doubting and saying, no, they're not going to be able to do it. Hey, in a year, if we don't like, I don't know how long these contracts are, if you don't like what they're doing, you know what? Let's terminate and go with somebody else if we don't like the job you're doing. And if we like what you're doing, then we'll keep you.
Okay. Well, we have a decision to make, so let's vote on the nomination by Mrs. Sustaita and seconded by Coach Jesse Trevino to terminate negotiations with the attorney firm ranked number 1 and authorize administration to initiate contract negotiations with the attorney firm ranked number 2, RFQ number 21-01-21. Let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye or no if you don't approve. Mr. Nieto?
No.
No. Mrs. Sustaita?
Aye.
Coach Jesse Trevino?
Aye.
Dr. Jaime Rodriguez?
No.
No. Mr. Mark de los Santos?
Aye.
Mr. Andrew Gonzalez?
No.
And the chair votes aye. Motion carries. That takes us to item 5, adjournment.
So moved.
This meeting is now adjourned and the time is 6:11. Thank you all.
6:10.